Hey everybody, how you doing? Welcome back. Barry is still on vacay. Right now, I believe he's in Australia, in a weird city named Melbourne. Melbourne, it's impronounceable. The name of this city is impronounceable. Even if you live there, I'm sorry, you just cannot pronounce it correctly. I'm on to you, Australians. But he's having a great time. Let's see. Today we have the cocaine grenade, featured prominently in One Piece D&D right here. And today, you know what? So we are going to be referencing things that happened in the most recent chapter, chapter 1063. But overall than that, I really want to talk about Haki in a general sense, okay? This is the generic Haki video, okay? It's been a while since we did a generic Haki video, or a GHV. GHV. That sounds like... that might be a disease or something. I don't know. It sounds like the name of a car, though. You know, buy the new Hyundai GHV. It's got 5-wheel drive. Yeah, all right. Anyway, so in the last chapter, the thing that was the impetus for this was that, spoilers, by the way, for chapter 1063, we had a moment where Doc Q, who has the ability of the sick fruit, afflicted all of the heart pirates with a disease that turned them into their opposite sex. So in this case, it would be Law becoming a woman. Now, Law, before any fanfics could be written about him, although I think quite a few are going to be written about him at this point, before anything could really get out of hand, though, he used his own Haki because from what he remembered from fighting Big Mom, and this like harkens back to when, remember, they were all on top of the Skull Dome. It was Kid and Law and Killer and Luffy and Zoro, and, you know, Big Mom and Kaido were like looming over them, and they were like, oh my god, fighting these two Yonko at once, this is hell. And then Kid looks over at Law and is just like, hey, Trafalgar, can you just use your magic room powers to like teleport Big Mom like a mile into the ocean? Which is great, because it was like one of the first times, like, because we've had a lot of questions about this over the years, you know, every now and then when you sit back and analyze devil fruits, like literally what everybody does on YouTube, you come up with a bunch of questions about like, hey, how come this character doesn't just do X with this ability? You know what I mean? And I think a lot of times it just comes down to like personality. Like, if you think about it, a lot of devil fruits could be extremely deadly, but if the person that has the fruit isn't really all that violent, then that makes sense why they wouldn't do all those horrible violent things with the devil fruits. I mean, for instance, Luffy, I mean, if you really think about it, he could like climb inside of like a giant character, like a giant, and then just expand his body inside of the giant, not going into gear 5th or anything, just literally just jump into the mouth of like Dory or Broggy, and then gear 3rd, and you know, it just like explode from the inside out. Luffy would never do that, though. Luffy's not that freaking bloodthirsty, you know what I mean? Like, he would never do something like that. Watch, that's how Luffy defeats Blackbeard somehow. I don't know, Blackbeard turns huge, Luffy's like, okay, and then just expands inside of Blackbeard, and that's how he dies. So there's a lot of questions about that, and that was a question regarding Law's devil fruit. Like, you know, why doesn't Law just open up his room? We've seen him open up the room to the size of like a mountain before. Why doesn't he just open the room to the maximum possible degree and then shambles, teleport Big Mom, and she just drops off the side of Onigashima? And so Kid brought this up, and Law was just like, you're an idiot, I can't do that, her Haki is way too powerful. Now, we already kind of assumed this, that like if you have really powerful Haki, that's sort of the buffer for really powerful OP devil fruits to like one-shot you, okay? Like, a good example of this is, think about all the devil fruit powers that if like the owner just happens to come in contact with you, the fight should all, for intents and purposes, be over. Like, the two that come to mind almost immediately are Sugar's Hobby no Mi and Jewelry Bonnie's Aging Fruit, okay? And there's two examples of both of these. So we have Sugar's Hobby, where the way that fruit was explained to us was whenever Sugar comes in contact with somebody, they are instantly turned into a toy. Not only are they turned into a toy, but all memories of that person for everyone are immediately erased. The only person that remembers who they are the toy themselves. And then also on top of that, they are issued a contract with Sugar where they have to obey her every word, okay? So if you think about this, and then the other one is Jewelry Bonnie's Aging Fruit, where if she comes in contact with you, she can instantly turn you into like a baby or like an old man where you can't really do anything, okay? But if you think about it, and there are even comments that mention this, like, I don't think, like, you know, Bonnie could just walk up to Kaido and just boop, and then Kaido turns into a little baby, and then it's just like, or like a 300-year-old man, like, "Yeah, Woro, damn you, Bonnie, where's my sake? Oh, my hip," and then the fight's over. I don't think that's how it would be able to work, right? And the same thing with Sugar. I don't think Sugar can just walk up to Big Mom and just bip, and then Big Mom turns into like a Raggedy Ann doll and just falls on the ground or something like that. Like, well, fight's over. There has to be like a buffer zone in between that, and that buffer zone is Haki. So if you have powerful enough Haki, you're able to resist Devil Fruit abilities. Not just like the base of Haki that we already understood, where if you use armament, then you're able to punch and come into contact with Logias who were formerly intangible. Now you can come in contact and fight them. But beyond that, no, even like paramecia abilities that have nothing to do with because Doc Q did not directly come in contact with the Heart Pirates. Doc Q just has like an area of an effect ability, kind of similar to Law's in some respect, where Doc Q could probably just is like, "Oh yes, you over there will be afflicted with this sickness. Ooh." And then one person gets infected and then it spreads to the whole crew or something like that. Law was able to realize that this is a Devil Fruit ability. The reason I'm getting sick and I'm contracting this "I'll become a woman" disease is because of a Devil Fruit. So I'll use my own Haki in order to nullify that. I'm assuming it hasn't been confirmed that Law has Conqueror's Haki, right? Because I'm pretty sure Kid has it, Luffy has it. I'm pretty sure it's been at least hinted at that Law has Conquerors, if it hasn't been just outright stated. If it hasn't, he probably does, and he also has the Will of D's, so that even makes more sense. But anyway, yeah, regardless of whether or not he has Conqueror's Haki, if Law just had really strong enough armament, he could probably just burst through that power, okay? So then that got me thinking, what is the relationship exactly between Devil Fruits and Haki? Because there's a few different ways you could look at this. One way of looking at it is you could say there's no connection whatsoever. The idea of Haki, or your ambition, is basically you can force your own willpower on other abilities or other characters in the One Piece world. That's essentially what Haki is, so it's you're a Logia, you're intangible. I'm literally going to force my willpower, my ambition into my fists so I can directly punch you or something like that. So they might not have anything to do with each other. It's just rather Haki's power on that higher tier is so great that you can literally kind of control what happens around you, or you can pick and choose which abilities are going to affect you or not. It's sort of something like that, because that's kind of the whole point of Haki. It's your own willpower channeled into aura or energy or spiritual pressure or whatever you want to call it, right? It's the closest thing to Ryatsu or chakra that we have in the One Piece world, right? So let's just go along with it. So a Yonko, for instance, Kaido's willpower is so strong that he's able to resist any ability like the Hobby no Mi or Bonnie's aging fruit. Now, the only way to counteract this, I would gather, is if both characters have a reasonable fair amount of Haki, if they're on the same level, okay? I would imagine that in terms of Haki output, I would probably say Law is better than Doc Q, all right? However, let's say, for example, if it wasn't Doc Q that had the sick fruit, let's say it was, let's just say it was Kaido. Let's say Kaido had the power of the sick fruit, and he dealt the disease out to the Heart Pirates instead. I don't think Law would just be as easily able to just break through that barrier, you know what I mean? If that was the case, if there was somebody, or if Doc Q had really, really powerful Haki, I don't think that would have been the case, okay? But Law was able to oh, I've learned this from my battle with Big Mom and Kaido, so I'm able to break through it just through sheer force of will, okay? If there's a Devil Fruit out there that allows, it's I ate the frog fruit, and I can turn you into a frog, and then boop, and then Law turns into a frog, and Law is just ribbit, Haki, and then just pops back into a human being. Could be something like that. But another way of looking at this is that Haki, and I even mentioned this in the review, what if Haki and Devil Fruits are sort of related, like two sides of the same coin kind of situation, all right? And, I'm not sure how it works with all types of devil fruits. And by the way, you can bet your bottom dollar the reason why we're seeing this encounter right now between Law and Blackbeard, and why Law was like, I was able to use Haki to break through your devil fruit power. You know why that is? It's because Vegapunk has been revealed in this arc. We haven't met the main body yet, but he's going to be revealed at some point. And Oda said when Vegapunk finally shows up in the story, that's when we're going to find out what devil fruits really are. So I think it's like Oda wants to drop some more hints onto like, okay, how come Haki affects devil fruits in this way? I think those are the questions Oda wants us to ask now. And so it's like when Vegapunk finally shows up, he's going to reveal like, oh yes, this is what devil fruits really are, and this is why Haki affects them, and this is why blah, 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 So what if, because like the idea is, at least with zones, it was already stated by the Gorosei that zones have their own will of their own like animal spirits or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, so they have their own will. The sun god fruit has its own will to keep like, avoiding the world government so they don't get their hands on it, all right? It might be a situation where all devil fruits are like that. It might be a situation where maybe Paramecias and Logias are also like that. It could be one of those things like we see a lot in anime where it's like you think a bunch of power systems are all different and separate, but at one point in the story you actually find out like, oh no, Paramecia, Logia, Zone, they might seem like separate abilities, but their core function, the root of where they all come from, very apropos given the fact they're devil fruits, like they're going to grow on plants, but like the origin of that is the same. So that's why Haki affects all devil fruits, okay? Because my first instinct to this was like, okay, well, what if zones have their own animal spirits in them, their own will, so therefore, if they have their own will and your Haki is your own ambition or will, then maybe it's like, okay, the zone fruit and the Haki users' willpowers are like clashing, you know what I mean? And so it's like your willpower is competing against the willpower of the zone, all right? However, and then that might have made sense with like Kaido's dragon fruit, not so much with like Big Mom's, because that was a soul fruit, that was the Paramecia, and also with Doc Q. Now, we don't know the type that Doc Q has. I highly doubt it's a zone, though. The sick fruit, most likely it's a Paramecia. Guess it could be a Logia, but I doubt it. So probably a Paramecia ability. And so with that being said, and also that might harken back to how Jinbei was able to avoid Big Mom's soul pocus, because it was stated with the soul pocus, like, if you have no fear in your heart from Big Mom, then it won't affect you. That might just be like the citizens of Totland coming up with an explanation. It might just be that Jinbei's Haki was so powerful that, the soul pocus just wouldn't have worked on him anyway. Okay, because think of everybody else the soul pocus was used on. You had Zeppo, and you had Pedro, you had Charlotte Moscato, who was one of Big Mom's kids. At the beginning of the arc, she ripped out his soul. And then other than that, though, it was just a bunch of like random people. You know what I mean? But then you have Jinbei, one of the warlords. He's really powerful. He's got really good Haki, okay? So, he maybe just was not afraid of Big Mom. He did not falter. But it might have been the real reason why he did not falter is because his willpower or his Haki was at such a high level that Big Mom can't just do the like, treat or life, Jinbei. And then Big Mom, just like tries to do the soul pocus, and Jinbei's just like, no. Treat or life? Neither. I have stronger Haki than what you're usually accustomed to. That's not going to work on me. Your instant one-shot attacks are not going to work on me. Sort of like how in Pokemon, when in Pokemon you do have a lot of one-shot moves like Sheer Cold and Fissure and like Guillotine. That's my favorite, Guillotine. But it doesn't work on Pokemon that are like way higher level than you. So you cannot give Guillotine to like a Weedle at like level 5 and throw it up against an Arceus at level 100 and be like, hey, watch this, Guillotine. Oh, bam, I just killed Arceus in one hit. Man, that Weedle's fast. Just like, whatever. But no, you know what I mean. Like, that's the reason why it doesn't work like that. So a lot of those one-shot kill moves only work on, like, Pokemon that are, like, lower level than the Pokemon you're using, or, like, the same level or lower. And that's the reason for it, okay? So kind of think of that. Once again, Pokemon is applicable in the One Piece universe, ladies and gentlemen. There we go. All right. However, that was an example with zones, though. Now we're talking about Paramecias and Logias. So what if it's not just zones? What if it's all types of devil fruits have a soul, have a will of their own, have a form of Haki in their own right? In fact, you know what? I wouldn't even be surprised if we actually find out that, like, Haki's literally the only power system in One Piece, and everything else is just connected to Haki. You know, like some dude, I don't know, some like Sage of Six Paths guy, like 3,000 years ago in the One Piece universe, with like the strongest Haki in the world, like, I will now, as my last act of life, I will impart all of my godly Haki into the soil, and that was the origin of the devil fruits right there. I wouldn't even honestly be surprised with it. Like, everything ties back to Haki. Devil fruits are because of Haki. All the observation, armament, conquers, that's all Haki. Miss Golden Week's colors trap shit, that was all Haki. Any other random, Django's hypnotism, that was a form of Haki. Like, every single type of ability in this world, whether it's devil fruit, Haki, or something unrelated, it's all connected back to Haki at the base in some way or another. Maybe it's like somebody like Miss Golden Week just had like a really rare form of Haki. Like maybe Django and Miss Golden Week had a rare type of like hypnotizing Haki. Okay, that not everybody awakens, but every once in a while somebody gets it. So Django was able to hypnotize people with his medallion and himself as well. Although I think it was explained as a joke that the reason Django can use hypnotism is because he has a mushroom growing out of his chin, and he ate the cap of the mushroom, and that gave him hypnotism powers. But like, who knows? I don't know. That's something like Oda can switch that around. That's kind of like a joke answer. It's kind of the same thing like whenever he said like, oh, how can Sanji light his leg on fire and not get burned? And Oda's response to that was because his heart burns even, you know, hotter with his passion. And it's like, okay, that's kind of bullshit, but whatever. And then in the last arc, it was properly revealed why Sanji can light his leg on fire, why he's not harmed by it. So that at least makes a little bit more sense. So, you know, every once in a while you could have some rare kind of like, you know, weird forms of Haki develop that are kind of like mutations. So, but it all might come back to Haki at the end of the day. This was actually exemplified in a comment I got by Brad, and Brad just said, you know, it's like, what if it's just like the willpower of the Haki, you know, what if that's just it, you know, it's like the willpower of the Haki meshing with, the devil fruits, and then the devil fruits themselves, because it was mentioned kind of by Jabra that each individual devil fruit has like a devil living inside of it, and I've talked about this before a lot on the channel, like, what if like Jabra was kind of onto something there when he mentioned that, like, oh yeah, when you eat a devil fruit and somebody else eats a devil fruit, you both have like literal devils living inside of you, and if you get close to one another, like your bodies explode and the devils come out and they fight. Obviously that's not what happens. You can have plenty of devil fruit users in the same room without them exploding, and later on it was explained that, like, by Blueno, that that phenomenon of people exploding, that's what happens if you eat 2 devil fruits, okay? However, Blueno does mention that I'm not really sure if devils are involved, so he didn't actually clarify that. He didn't say like, oh yeah, devils in devil fruits? That's just ridiculous. That's superstition. That couldn't happen. No, Blueno was like, well, no, you definitely won't explode unless you eat 2 devil fruits, but whether or not there are actual devils involved in this process that are like living inside of you, or like the spirit of a devil or something like that, I really can't say. So that might be it. Like, we've learned about this from Vegapunk. Vegapunk might show up and sit all of the Straw Hats down and actually explain to them what devil fruits are. Be like, yeah, so it turns out that a long time ago a devil existed, and everyone's like, okay, taking notes on this. Like, a devil existed, and then it died, and then its soul went into the soil, and then it created a bunch of these things, you know? And then that's been going on for like 5,000 years. Devil fruits have been around, constantly reincarnating into other fruits, and it's just the spirit of a devil embodying these different aspects of reality, like elements and animals, and then just wacky abilities like laundry and guns, you know, and jackets, you know what I mean? Like, that's like, that might be what it is at the end of the day, right? So, yeah, it could be that. And then, like, each individual devil fruit exerts its own willpower, and then there you go. That's why Haki can kind of like fight against it there. I feel like it is going to be relevant. I just have this feeling it's going to be something like that. It's going to be like, they're not separate abilities. It's not like devil fruits are over here as a separate power system, Haki is another power system, and then hypnotism and all these other wacky, weird kind of one-off abilities are also another system altogether. No, it's all going to connect back together, because I think everything is going to culminate at the Void Century. Earlier I said devil fruits were around for like thousands of years. Devil fruits might actually have only started to exist during the Void Century, for all we know. Might have been before that, who knows, but whatever. How does this tie into the ancient weapons as well? Like, Haki might have something to do with the ancient weapons. I think I did talk about that before. I've made a video talking about how there's 3 different types of devil fruits, 3 ancient weapons, and there's also 3 different types of Haki. So You know what I mean? Like, you could see Oda's doing something with threes here, like observation, armament, and conquerors, 3 types of Haki. Logia, Paramecia, zone, 3 types of devil fruits. You know, Pluton, Uranus, and Poseidon, 3 different types of ancient weapons. So I don't know. I don't know if that's going to connect back, and then we're going to find out at the very beginning there was the true Haki. Oh, I wonder if that's what Eam has. I was under the impression maybe Eam's ability was Eam has like the strongest conquerors in the world, but maybe it's even beyond that. Maybe Eam has like the original Haki, like the true root of where all Haki came from, the one Haki or something like that, where it is conquerors, observation, and armament all rolled into one, but it's even greater than that. It's beyond even that. It's something on the next level where Eam could like literally rip out your willpower and like literally force you to bend the knee to, you know, their will. You know, could be something along that line, actually. You know, you could probably get the same effect with conquerors. Like, if you could say that, like, Eam has the strongest conquerors in the world, Eam could basically, like, remove the willpower of the Gorosei to make them listen to whatever Eam says. It could be something like that. Or it could be something very, very old, like an old kind of, like, eldritch, like, even power that might have not have been ever, like, researched before. All the information would have been destroyed, you know, centuries ago by the world government. You know, something kind of going along with that. I'm reading Mistborn right now, and that's kind of the twist with the Lord Ruler. Like, oh yeah, the Lord Ruler had an ability that, like, a combination of powers that nobody ever thought possible, and then just like that was the twist. So what if the twist with Eam is like, oh, Eam just has all 3 Hakis in one that's even greater than the regular Haki? You know what I mean? Because there are already characters like Luffy, for example, that has all 3 types of Haki. So that in and of itself is rare, but not impossible. Because a lot of characters actually, like Kid and Rayleigh and Luffy and Zoro now, they all have 3 types of Haki, but like all 3 into like one burst, and it's like supreme. Okay, so they're the supreme King's Haki. Yeah, all right. Anyway, this is a little bit of a shorter video than I've usually done, and I don't have monkey facts for you today. I'm sorry, I'm just a little bit busy today with some other stuff, but we'll follow this up later this week because there's a lot of stuff to unpack from the last chapter. That was just like my initial thoughts here, because with Law and Blackbeard fighting, and with the talk about Haki, and with Vegapunk showing up, and Devil Fruits being relevant, I feel like Oda's asking us, like, telling us to, like, you know, ask these questions because it's sort of important, okay? So, there you go. Also, for animal facts, I might do, like, 1 or 2 more installments with monkey facts, but I think we're ready to move on to the letter N, and that, of course, has to be narwhals. And with that being said, you don't have to worry about sending me any kind of narwhal facts theme song, because the internet already made one back in, like, 2008 that I'm gonna use. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. Tekking, signing out. Narwhals, swimming in the